So let's talk about an artist who, at the absolute peak of his career, just orchestrated his own disappearance. We're talking about D.L.B.S., a storyteller from the Dirty South who dropped a wild number of albums in a single year, left one final leaked project behind as his last word, and then just vanished. Today, we're going to try and unpack the clues he left for us.
And get this is how his very last album starts. Not with some big musical intro, but with that question from his creative director, Sophia Luna. It perfectly captures how he worked. D.L.B. was literally a ghost in the machine. He'd leave entire verses on the server and be gone before anyone even knew he was there. He was a phantom in his own studio, a presence that was always felt, but hardly ever seen.
And what a presence it was. In 2025, D.L.B. didn't just release an album, he released an entire library. Yeah, over 13 projects in just 1 year. Each one felt like another chapter in this huge, sprawling story about trauma, ambition, and this desperate search for peace. It was like a year-long marathon of public confessional.
And after that monumental year, right after Christmas, his final album, Thank You for Listening, just appears online. It leaks. But this didn't feel like an accident, you know? It felt like a final transmission, a goodbye note he deliberately left for us before pulling the plug and just disappearing completely.
And really, that's the heart of the whole mystery, isn't it? When you have the entire world's attention, when your voice is louder than it's ever been, why would you choose silence? Let's dig into it.
All right, Section 1, the final transmission. It all kicks off with the album itself, Thank You for Listening. This thing is way more than just a collection of songs. It feels like the final piece of a puzzle he left behind for all of us.
To really get the impact, you have to look at this timeline. The year starts in January with Almost Peaceful. Then comes this relentless flood of music all year long. And then, boom, the final album leaks on December 26th, weeks before it was even supposed to come out. See, this wasn't just some early drop. This was a statement, a final chapter released on his own terms.
And he wasn't exactly hiding what he was doing. It wasn't buried in subtext. It was his mission statement. I mean, take this line from Return Your Call. He's telling us exactly what he's about to do. This wasn't some sudden, impulsive decision. It was a planned extraction to find some quiet in a life that had clearly become way too loud.
So that brings us to Section 2, the ghost in the machine. Because to really understand why he vanished, you have to understand the isolation he was already living in. The man behind the music was, in a lot of ways, already a ghost.
Again, he's not being mysterious about his motives. He's laying it all out in the lyrics. This withdrawal was a conscious choice for self-preservation. This wasn't about retiring or giving up music. It was about survival. It was about going deep to heal the very wounds that his music was constantly putting on display for the entire world.
And his entire vibe, his whole aesthetic, mirrors this isolation perfectly. The visuals, the soundscape, it's all so moody and cinematic, and it just feels haunted. You look at his album art and you can just feel the solitude. It's like you're looking at a world where one person is just wrestling with their own shadow, completely surrounded by ghosts from the past.
Now this slide pulls the curtain back on just how raw his process was. His team would get these voice notes with file names that were just devastating. Think about it. Verse 3, final cry version, .wave. Hook, take 7, barely held it together, .aiff. These aren't just audio files. They're like emotional artifacts. He was sending what one of his collaborators called memories captured mid-collapse.
And that's really the crucial point here. His collaborators knew this wasn't about just making a hot record. They were documenting a fight for survival. Every single track was another step on a path out of the darkness, laid totally bare for all of us to hear.
Okay, Section 3, the price of peace. So if his music was a survival route, then what exactly was he trying to survive? Well, it seems like it was the crushing cost of his own ambition and the brutal price you have to pay to find any kind of peace.
I mean, the album titles alone tell the whole story. No price on peace. Mercy is for the weak. This is not the language of someone who's found tranquility. It's the language of conflict, of war. His entire catalog reads like this negotiation between a man who is desperate for calm and a world that demands he be ruthless.
His own press kit pretty much lays out these core conflicts. You can see how the toll of ambition leads directly to isolation, how betrayal forces him to build up these walls just to protect himself. He's constantly caught in this tug of war between love and loss.
And ultimately, what he's showing us is that peace isn't some final destination you arrive at. It's this fragile, fragile state you have to fight for every single day.
And this one line just sums it all up perfectly. All the external signs of success, the diamonds, the money, the fame, they do absolutely nothing to heal the wounds on the inside. It's that classic paradox of a man who has everything he ever thought he wanted, but is still haunted by what it cost him to get there.
So let's get into section 4, a sanctuary built on scars. When you're facing this kind of internal war, what do? Well, if you're D.L.B, you build a fortress. Not with bricks and stone, but with sound. And that fortress was his label, 11-6 Music, which was really less of a company and more of a creative sanctuary.
He didn't just start a label, he actually designed an entire ecosystem. You can see on the slide, every part has a very specific purpose. Hustle Harmonics is described as the emotional architecture. Crown XI is the female vocal engine. And maybe most telling of all, 11's heart is a women-led, safe, collaborative space. This isn't just business. This is a structure that's built for protection.
The whole label runs on what he calls a no-chains philosophy. The artists are all freelance by design. They can walk away at any time, no strings attached. It's the ultimate countermove to the exploitation you see everywhere else in the industry. He basically built a place where people stay because they want to be there, not because some contract says they have to.
And the foundation for this whole thing is just pure authenticity. He comes from an era where freestyle really meant off the top of your head, right then and there. That background as a freestyle pro is exactly why his music feels so unedited, so immediate. He's not reading a script. He's telling you his truth right as it's happening to him.
And that's why it connects so deeply with people. DJ J. Rivera really hit the nail on the head. Listeners don't need perfect, they need honest. They want something real, something the artist actually believed in at that moment. And D.L.B. always delivers that honesty, no matter how messy or painful it is.
Which brings us to our last section, the map he left behind. So, he's gone. But he didn't just leave a void. Instead, he left a map, a digital legacy, a whole discography that feels like it was designed for his fans to decipher what really happened.
It really makes you wonder, right? In this age where everyone is fighting desperately to be seen, he chose to disappear. And in doing so, he left behind not a brand, but a body of work, an archive of his own survival.
And so, at the end of the day, we're left with fan theories on Reddit forums. Was this whole thing just the most genius marketing play for an eventual comeback? Or was it the genuine, final act of an artist who paid the ultimate price for peace and finally decided it was time to collect? The truth is, he left that for us to decide.